My name is Jennifer. This is my story while working as a servant at Maxwell Family Home. Maxwell was a blind guy. Blind from birth. He has once lived abroad and schooled there, so he was very clever with his senses. He moved around the house freely. You might think he had eyes. I worked in the house. His parents also lived there. I did their cooking, cleaning, and general care work but didn't live in the house. One afternoon, while serving his food, he said he was going to describe me and see if he would get it correct. He only got my complexion right. He said I was of medium height, but I'm a little taller than him. He said I was plump, but I'm slim. We became talking mates when there was nothing for me to do. One day, he asked me what a man like him would do to have me as his girlfriend. I can't see you, but your presence is more intense than you can ever imagine, he told me. I told him I had a boyfriend, and that was the only reason I wouldn't date him. He was home alone on Mondays and Fridays. He didn't work on those days, so I was always alone with him. He persuaded me. He was so desperate he said he would pay me to be his girlfriend. I asked him, what do you really want, a girlfriend or someone you can sleep with? He answered, I'm a boy in love, hoping I can feel the warmth of the woman I love. While he was abroad, he dated a white girl. They did it secretly because the lady was embarrassed by him, that her friends would know she was dating a black boy who was also blind. He said the lady abused him, knowing very well she was all he had and he couldn't leave her. When he moved to Ghana, their relationship ended, and it was the last time he slept with someone. It had been 8 years since they broke up. One afternoon, I allowed him to touch me. He could do everything but I didn't allow him to get into me. I saw tears in his eyes as his hands ran over my skin. I told him, I'm ready. Let's do it. At first, I did it out of pity and maybe for the effort he put into getting me. I didn't have a boyfriend, I lied to him. After the first time, we couldn't stop. Whenever he was alone, I availed myself. It wasn't out of love but because he knew how to work my body. I did it for selfish reasons, but he grew attached and obsessed as time went on. He was doing too much too soon, promising me heaven when I didn't have my own place on earth. When I got home and didn't talk to him, he got mad. When I asked permission not to work for a day and his parents granted it, he was so mad at me he cried when we talked. He kept saying, you're all I have. If I don't hear from you, it feels like I'm losing my breath. I'd never had a man love me this intensely, and yet I didn't feel anything for him. He gave me thousands, but I didn't collect any. He said we could travel to the US and live there, but I simply couldn't connect. When I left the job, I didn't tell him. I just disappeared, hoping he would move on once I was away. But less than a week later, his mom called. She said, if you agree to marry my son, we'll bless it and support you in every way each day. He loves you. I cried. I didn't think he would have the courage to tell his parents about us. I told her, I'm not ready to marry. I'm going back to school to fix my future first. Don't worry, we'll do whatever you want after the marriage, she assured me. I shook my head, but I told her I would think about it. I changed my number. I didn't hear from them again. 7 years later, Maxwell's dad walked into the office where I worked. He noticed me quicker than I noticed him. He looked at me for a long time and then said, aren't you the one who used to help around the house? I forced a smile. Yes, sir. It's been a while. He nodded slowly, then sighed. Maxwell still talks about you. My heart skipped. I hadn't heard that name in so long it almost felt like fiction. He didn't forget me. I asked, before I could stop myself. Forget, he chuckled dryly. He still thinks you're somewhere waiting for him. We never told him you left. We said you traveled. He refused to believe otherwise. I swallowed hard. All the emotions I buried came flooding back, but guilt was the loudest. I didn't mean to ghost him, I just didn't know how to say goodbye to a man who loved me more than I loved myself. He is married now?" I asked. His father shook his head. He never tried again. He said there's no point. He's built his whole world around someone he can no longer touch, but whose presence still sits beside him in the dark. Tears stung my eyes. He's opening a foundation for visually impaired youth. He gives speeches, travels, inspires others. But when he's alone, his father said, he still calls your name in the dark. Like he's sure you'll hear him. I couldn't breathe. All I ever wanted was to move on, and yet here I was, tethered to a man who never truly let go. His father handed me a card. He's giving a talk this Saturday. You don't have to go. But if you don't, I'm afraid, he may always wait for someone who's already walked away. That night, I sat in bed and played the voice note he once sent me, one I saved without realizing why. Your presence is more intense than you can ever imagine. I didn't sleep. Saturday came. I stood at the back of the hall, not sure if I had the right to be there. Then he came on stage, tall, confident, still blind, but radiant with purpose. The room fell silent when he spoke. In the darkest times of my life, someone came along. I don't know if she's here, or if she'll ever hear this. But she taught me that love isn't always about being seen. Sometimes, it's about being felt. My knees weakened. After the talk, I was about to slip away unnoticed again. Then I heard his voice behind me. I knew you'd come. I froze. How? He smiled. I felt the air shift. Your silence is loud. I turned, tears running freely. I'm not asking for anything, he said, reaching out. I just wanted to say thank you for being the light even when you didn't stay. This time, I held his hand. I'm sorry I left. He nodded. You did what you had to do. But just know, I never stopped loving you. I didn't know what the future held. But one thing was certain, he remembered me, not with his eyes, but with something deeper. Something I could no longer ignore. After that day, we began talking again, but slowly, cautiously, like people walking barefoot over broken glass. Maxwell didn't push. He asked how I'd been, where I'd gone, and what I'd become. I told him everything: school, jobs, heartbreaks, healing. He listened with the same softness he had when we used to talk in his room, back when I served his lunch and kept my heart locked. I'm proud of you, he said one evening over the phone. You became the woman I always saw in you. That broke me. We didn't talk about us, not at first. He never asked if I loved him, and I never said I did. Maybe he knew I wasn't sure. Or maybe he didn't want to risk hearing the wrong answer. One weekend, he invited me to see the new building for his foundation. It's not far from the ocean, he said. I like to hear the waves after a long day. I went. He met me outside with his cane and a bright smile. I still don't know what you look like, he said, but I've never been more certain of your presence. I helped him walk through the halls. He showed me the rooms, the tech labs, the reading space. His voice lit up when he described how young blind children would be trained there, mentored, and believed in. At the end of the tour, we stood on the balcony facing the sea. The wind carried his voice when he said, if I asked you again, would your answer be different now? My chest tightened. You still love me. I never stopped. I'm not the same girl, I whispered. He smiled. Good. I fell in love with your presence, not your past. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like running. I reached for his hand, not out of pity, or guilt, or habit, but because this time, I wanted to stay. I don't know what the future holds, I said. But I want to walk toward it, with you. He didn't cry. He just held my hand tighter. Weeks passed. The world felt lighter. We didn't rush. We laughed, learned, healed. He let me set the pace. I let him hold my heart gently. One evening, as we sat listening to the ocean, he said, "You gave me more than your body. You gave me your story." I looked at him, smiling through tears. "And you gave me the kind of love that never needed eyes to see." Maxwell and I didn't jump into a relationship, we eased into it like stepping into warm water. Every time we spoke, it felt like healing. Every touch, every shared silence, rebuilt something inside me I didn't know was broken. He still lived with his parents, though he was financially independent. His mother was cautious when she saw me again. Her smile was tight, not unkind, but guarded. "You broke my son," she said one day while serving tea. "I know," I replied. "And I want to help mend him. If he'll let me." She studied me for a long time, then finally nodded. "He still sleeps with your scarf under his pillow." That night, I sat beside him on the edge of his bed. He held my wrist, slowly tracing the lines of my palm with his thumb. "Promise me," he said quietly, "don't disappear again." "I promise." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for 7 years. Our relationship wasn't perfect. Sometimes, the past came creeping in. I'd lie awake wondering if I truly deserved this man who had waited in the dark for me. He, on the other hand, worried that I would wake up one day and realize I didn't love him enough. "I'm blind," he said once, "but that doesn't mean I can't feel when love slips away." "I'm not going anywhere," I reassured him. "This time, I want to build a life, not an escape." Still, doubts came. People whispered. Friends asked questions I didn't have answers for. "You're dating a blind man. What's the future in that? Are you really in love, or just trying to fix what you broke?" Sometimes, the voices in my head got louder than the voice in my heart. Until one day, I came home to find Maxwell sitting alone in the dark, an open box in his lap. Inside it was a small ring, simple, silver, no diamonds. "I can't kneel," he said with a trembling smile, "but I can ask. Will you marry me, not because you pity me, or owe me, but because you choose me?" I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. Yes. We got married in a small ceremony by the sea. Just a few people, soft music, and the waves clapping in the background. He couldn't see me in my gown, but when I took his hands and placed them on my face, he whispered, "You're the most beautiful person I've ever touched." Marriage came with its own lessons. I learned that love isn't about grand gestures, it's about everyday patience. He learned to trust that I was here to stay. We had arguments, some about little things, others about the weight of the world we both carried. But through every storm, we held hands. We talked. We remembered. I often found him talking to young blind children at his foundation, telling them, "There's nothing wrong with you. The world just hasn't learned how to see people like us properly." And then he'd smile, tilt his head toward me and say, "But sometimes, love shows up. Sometimes, love stays." Our love grew like a tree, deep roots, strong trunk, but every now and then, the wind would test its strength. It had been a year since we got married. Life had settled into a rhythm, mornings filled with gentle kisses and shared breakfast, afternoons with work and purpose, evenings with laughter and stories. Sometimes I'd read to him. Sometimes he'd tell me how he imagined my face that day, always beautiful, always soft in his mind's eye. But then came the storm. It started when I noticed he'd grown quieter. He stopped going to the foundation every day. He stayed in bed longer. He smiled less. At first, I thought he was just tired. Burnout, maybe. But then he began turning away from my touch. He flinched when I tried to hold him. When I asked what was wrong, he'd say, "Nothing. I'm just thinking." But I knew. One night, I woke up and found him sitting on the floor beside our bed, head in his hands. "I'm failing you," he whispered. I rushed to him. Maxwell, no, why would you say that? Because I can't give you the life you deserve, he said, choking on the words. You're always giving, always adjusting. I hear you breathe when you're overwhelmed. I know when you cry in the bathroom. I know, even if I don't see. I broke. I held his face and cried with him. Maxwell, I didn't marry your eyes. I married your heart. Your soul. The way you love me makes every hard day worth it. But what about children? He asked. What about the dreams you don't speak of because you think I won't understand? We hadn't conceived yet. A part of me had been scared to talk about it, afraid he'd feel like less of a man. But now, with everything laid bare, I said, we'll find a way. Together. Whether it's a child, or 10, or none, we are still a family. A few weeks later, we started therapy. Together. We also went to a fertility clinic. There were hurdles, of course, but the moment we decided to face them hand in hand, something shifted. The light came back in his voice. One morning, he woke up early and made me breakfast. Toast a little burnt, eggs a bit too salty, but he did it on his own. When I kissed him and laughed, he said, I wanted to remind you that I can still give. I looked at him, my husband, the man who waited for me in the dark, who now stood beside me in the light, and said, you've never stopped giving. 2 months later, we got a call from the clinic. Positive. I was pregnant. He held my belly every night, whispering stories to the tiny seed growing inside me. Your mother is the light of my world, he'd say. You're coming into a house where love has already made room for you. We didn't know the future. But we had each other. And in the silence of our shared space, love no longer whispered, it sang. Pregnancy changed everything. Maxwell became softer, more intentional. He listened to every sound my body made, memorized the pattern of my breathing, massaged my ankles with warm oil every evening like it was sacred. When the baby kicked for the first time, he was the first person I called, even before the doctor. He knelt beside me, placed his hands gently on my stomach, and whispered, hello, little one. I've been waiting for you. And yet, as joy began to settle into our home, so did something else, something unexpected. It started with a message request on social media. The name was unfamiliar, but the profile picture showed a white woman, green eyes, tight smile. A message followed, I need to speak to you. It's about Maxwell. I ignored it. But it didn't stop there. She emailed. She found the foundation's number and called while I was handling a workshop. Maxwell was in the car when my phone rang. I answered. Hello. I said, cautious. Good. You finally picked up. My name is Amber. I was Maxwell's girlfriend in the UK before he left. I need to see him. I froze. Why? I asked, my voice trembling. He left something behind. Something that belongs to both of us. And I've kept it hidden for 8 years. I didn't tell Maxwell that night. I needed time to process, to think. But it weighed on me like a stone under my skin. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Amber was standing there, with a little boy by her side. Pale-skinned, curly hair, a slight tilt in his head. He looked about 7. I told you, she said, he left something behind. I stood frozen, the ground crumbling under my feet. Maxwell came to the door moments later, his cane tapping gently against the tiles. Who's there? He asked. The boy looked up. Daddy. Maxwell paused. The world went silent. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Just stood there, breathing slowly. Then he turned his face toward where Amber stood. I don't understand, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Amber looked at me, then back at him. He's yours, Max. I didn't tell you because I was angry. I thought you'd never make it. but you did. And now he needs to know who he is. I felt something inside me splinter, not from jealousy, but from fear. Fear of what this meant for us, for the baby I carried, for the fragile peace we had finally built. Maxwell reached forward slowly and knelt down, hands shaking. "What's your name, son?" "Eli," the boy replied. Maxwell smiled, his eyes glistening. "Hi, Eli. I'm your dad." Later that night, Maxwell sat on the floor with his head in my lap. He didn't speak for a long time. When he finally did, he said, "I didn't know. I would never have left him." "I know," I whispered. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't. But this changes everything." "No," I said, brushing his hair with my fingers. "It only adds to the story." He kissed my belly gently. "You hear that, little one? You already have a big brother." And just like that, we knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But it would be honest. And love, no matter how complicated, would hold us through it all. Love isn't always simple. It comes with history, pain, and unexpected turns, but when it's real, it makes room for growth, forgiveness, and new beginnings. This story teaches us that true love is patient, healing, and willing to embrace not just the present, but even the shadows of the past. Sometimes, family is not what we plan, it's what we build with courage, truth, and grace. My husband's baby mama stayed in town longer than we expected. She and Eli moved into a small guest house nearby, her decision, not ours. She said she didn't want to disrupt our home, but deep down, I knew she was also watching. Watching me. Watching Maxwell. Watching what we had become. Eli, though, was a wonder. He looked nothing like Maxwell, but he laughed like him, freely, fully. He was shy at first, not knowing what to make of this new dad who couldn't see. But Maxwell bridged the gap with patience. He would say, "Come sit and tell me how your day was. Let me learn the sound of your stories." And Eli would sit and talk and giggle and lean into him like he'd known him all his life. The boy was a fast learner. In less than 2 weeks, he could guide Maxwell through the house with confidence. "Left here, Daddy. Mind the step." Amber would watch quietly, her arms folded, her eyes unreadable. One night, she called me outside. "I see the way you look at him," she said. I didn't reply. "You think I'm here to take him from you?" I looked at her then. "No. I think you're here because you're scared. Scared your son will love me like he loves you." Her face twitched. I hid the truth. "I'm not the enemy, Amber," I added softly. "I'm just the woman who loves the man you couldn't keep." That hurt her, I could tell, but I didn't regret it. She needed to know this wasn't some casual setup. Maxwell was mine now, and whatever past they had no longer held power here. One afternoon, while I was napping, I woke to hear laughter outside. I walked out and found Maxwell and Eli building something with sticks and stones in the garden. "A rocket ship," Eli said proudly. Maxwell smiled. "One day we'll fly to the moon together." I watched them, hand on my growing belly, my heart full and conflicted. A child that wasn't mine, and yet somehow, was beginning to feel like he belonged. Later, Maxwell came to me. "I want Eli to live with us." I blinked. "Full time?" He nodded. "I missed 7 years. I don't want to miss more. And Amber? She's tired. She's been raising him alone." I can hear it in her voice. "I think she'll agree." She did. With conditions. She wanted to return to the UK, rebuild her life, but on one promise: protect my son. "And don't let him forget who his mother is." "I won't," I promised. So we made space. Both in our house and in our hearts. Eli got a room. Painted walls. toys, books with raised letters so he could read with his dad. Maxwell became something I'd never seen him as before, a father. A patient, loving, playful father. He would sit Eli on his lap and say, "You came from a part of my life I thought was broken. But you are the gift that proved healing is real." And me. I watched. I loved. I prayed. Because now we had not one, but 2 children to raise. One breathing in front of us. The other growing inside me, kicking with every laugh, with every moment of peace. We were a family. A strange one. A messy one. But a real one. And sometimes, the realest families are born in the most unexpected ways. The day our baby arrived, it rained. Not a storm, just a soft, steady rain, like the sky was washing the world clean for something new. Maxwell sat by my side through the entire labor. His hands never left mine. His voice never stopped whispering prayers and love into my ear. When the baby cried for the first time, he cried too. "It's a girl," the nurse said. Maxwell reached out with trembling hands and held her gently against his chest. "Hello, my light," he whispered. "I may not see you, but I feel you. You've been dancing in our lives even before this day." We named her Amora, meaning grace. And that's exactly what she was. Eli was the first to hold her after us. He sat carefully, cradling his sister in his small arms, eyes wide with wonder. "She smells like warm milk and soft clouds," he said. Maxwell laughed. "You're a poet now, huh?" And just like that, we became a family of 4. The nights were long. There were diapers, sleepless cries, tired mornings. But there was also singing, laughter, the warmth of bodies close together, the tiny coos of a baby learning the sound of our love. Amber kept in touch. Video calls every month. Eli would update her on school, on how his baby sister liked to grab his ears, on how Maxwell taught him to play the keyboard by sound. I sent her pictures, proof that her son was thriving, growing, safe. There was no bitterness left. Only respect. Quiet, necessary respect. Years passed. Maxwell published a book about his life, his pain, his healing, his journey from rejection to redemption. He titled it, "In the Dark, I Found Her." I started a small organization for women who had once been like me, helpers, often overlooked, unheard, and yet carrying powerful stories. Eli became a brilliant writer. Amora, bold and tender, loved dancing in the living room with her father, guiding him with her tiny hands and fierce little voice. One day, she asked him, "Daddy, what do you see when you think of me?" He smiled. "I see light, baby girl. A light so bright, it makes me forget I ever lived in darkness." And me? I sometimes look back at the girl I was. The girl who once gave herself to a blind man out of pity. The girl who ran away from love because she couldn't recognize it. I want to hug her. I want to tell her, "You didn't choose wrong. You chose a man who saw you when no one else did. You chose a love that would become your home." Because in the end, love didn't come dressed in perfection. It came in brokenness, in second chances, in grace. It came blind. But it saw everything. Love is not always found in perfect circumstances, it often shows up in the most unexpected places, wrapped in flaws, scars, and second chances. This story teaches us that true love sees beyond appearances, beyond mistakes, beyond the past. It reminds us that healing is possible when we open our hearts, and that sometimes the people we try to run from are the very ones meant to bring us home. Real love is patient, forgiving, and brave enough to build a future, even from broken pieces. Thanks for watching.